You're listening to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. This is the program called The Wonderful World of Wardini Books, and it's our pleasure, as always, to have in the studio the wonderful Lou from Wardini Books in Havelock North. How you going, Lou?
Very well, thanks. Yourself?
Oh, I can't complain. All a bit of a talking to you, although prior to turning the camera on, you were scratching your head, which is a great introduction into your first book.
Oh, you'll be scratching by the end of this. Yeah.
That's the funny thing how that works out anyway.
Yeah.
Tell us all about Nits.
Nits, with an exclamation mark. It's by Stephanie Blake, who is the author of Pooh Bum. So I may have mentioned Simon Rabbit before. He's a very naughty little rabbit. He's not really, he's just a nice little kid, you know. He's an allegory for a nice little child, but gets up to what kids gets up to. And in this one, Simon loves Lou. So I'm even in it, but not quite in it, because I'm not a rabbit. But in Simon's class, there's a little girl called Lou, and Simon loves her, but she loves Mamadou.
Oh, look at that.
Sadly. But Simon does, well, he does care. He's very jealous, and there's a kiss and all that kind of thing. But one day Lou begins to itch. She has nits, and everyone teases her, and Mamadou is awful to her. Lou's got nits, Lou's got nits. But Simon doesn't care. He says, I love nits. I love Lou. And so they go on. And it's very simply told, and nice little sort of dots on the rabbity ears to acknowledge the nits.
Yes, they are.
And there's going to be a little rabbity embrace, and guess what happens?
They transfer the nits from one to another.
Simon's at risk. Yes. Yeah, so it's just a very, very simple little baby love story.
Love it.
And yeah, the transference as happens to children all around the world.
Yes. Did your mother have one of those knit combs? I lived in England back in the 50s and my mum had a knit comb.
I never had them as a child.
Didn't you?
I had them as a teacher.
Oh, right.
I had everything. I caught everything from kids.
Yeah, I bet you did. Did you have a knit comb then?
Yes.
Yeah.
And lots of lotion. And it got passed around the house. Even Gareth had them at one point because contracted from me.
Oh, you've got to look back on a laugh, don't you?
You have to, really. It's just one of those things.
Our next book is called The Strawberry Thief. What's that all about?
Yeah, so this is by Joanne Harris. And do you remember the book and the film Chocolat?
Yes.
Yes, so it's the third featuring Vianne Rocher, who is the what do you call it? Chocolaterist.
Yes.
I don't know.
The chocolateria.
So yes, that's the one. That's definitely it. The lady who makes the chocolates.
Yes.
And of course it's magical realism, and so she infuses she's a witch, she's a good witch, and she infuses her chocolate with her magic. So in this one she's in Lansquenet again, and everything's fine. She's had her second daughter with Rue, Johnny Depp in the film. Yes. And that's Rosette, and Rosette has grown into a young woman. But something happened when Rosette was when she was born, and she doesn't speak like other people speak. And people are used to her in the village, but there's that idea that she's not normal, she's not quite right. And she's got a little, what you and I would maybe call an imaginary friend called Bam, that little monkey friend. But other people can see him if they're tuned in. But what happens is there's an old fella in the village, and he dies, and he leaves Rosette a wood. And there's massive ructions caused by that because, of course, his family come back and say, well, we've got the farmhouse, we want the wood as well. What's happened? Has he buried treasure in it? What's going on? And they're forever trying to get this wood from Rosette. And it's the story of the old fella who has lived with this terrible secret for years and years and years. And it's also the story of the village priest who's lived with a terrible secret also, but he's entrusted with the story of the old fella. So there's all these different layers of secrets going on, and why has Rosette got the wood, and what happened when Rosette was a baby to make her have this shadow voice, as she calls it. And then into the town wafts another magical person who's a tattooist, which is very interesting because, you know, I've got a fair few tattoos myself. And Vianne is worried about this. What's going to be taken from her, because she's always waiting for the wind to blow through and take things away from her. So there's all these different layers of the story, but again, it's full of the strawberries that grow in the woods. It's full of Vianne's magic through her chocolate, and the descriptions of the chocolate are just amazing, especially reading it over Easter. It was perfect. So yeah, just another atmospheric, beautiful tale.
Sounds like a great book. Who's it aimed at?
Pardon?
Who's it aimed at, age-wise?
Oh, it's a grown-up book.
Yeah.
But, I mean, young adults could read it too.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Okay, and our last book, and just by the by, my head is itching now.
Ah, yeah.
Why
it's
is
amazing. Because we're talking about nits. Everybody who's listening, their head will be itching.
I would really scratch if it wasn't on camera.
I don't care.
Our last book is by a very famous author, and it's called Identity Crisis.
Yes, Ben Elton.
Yes.
We were just talking off air about from Blackadder days. And like I said to you, he stays so relevant because this one, it's kind of a murder mystery. So we start with a young lady who's been found dead in a park, single blow to the back of the head. And the detectives, the chief detective, Detective Inspector Matlock, goes on television and says, you know, we need your help with this crime. It's terrible. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And in today's society, the internet goes nuts straight away because he's blamed the victim. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yes, not the perpetrator.
Yeah, and he didn't mean that at all. He's just trying to start his investigation. So it begins with that, and then it's set in the near future. So Brexit has happened, and it's in London, and then you've actually got people who want to separate England from the rest of the UK. So that's the next thing.
Yeah.
So it's all really about the manipulation of people into swinging this way or that way with should England stay in, should England go out of the UK, and also different sort of groups on society or communities that are enhanced by what we do with social media. So you've got Facebook and Instagram and things like that who it's really quite hard to explain. So, you know, there might be a trans community and there might be a cis community, you know, all the way that gender's so fluid these days. And so there are all these groups just saying, well, that woman isn't a woman and she is a woman and she's not a woman or anything, and it all gets very confusing. But what he's done with this is he's melded this murder investigation into the manipulation of Facebook to create politics, and there's Russian influencers and all sorts going on, and it's
like you say, very relevant.
Oh yeah, absolutely, bang up to date, and it's a satire, so you actually laugh out loud, but it's also quite disturbing because of how you can't say anything these days without somebody taking offence. Yeah, I
could tell you some stories. Have you got time?
Sure.
Anyway, 3 more great books available from both of your stores. One in Havelock North, which is on which street?
Tomato Road.
And your other one is in?
Hastings Street in Napier.
As always, Lou, our pleasure. You look after yourself. We'll talk to you same time, same place next time.
Cool. Thanks, Kim.